Steve Kunkel here, Kunkel321 on the forums and on GitHub, doing another screencast for the AutoCorrect2 package of apps. Today, let's focus on the Manual Correction Logger. It is the thing you've seen in the core folder called MCLogger. Our last screencast was for the autocorrection logging mechanism in the F function in AutoCorrect2 and how you could do an on-demand analysis of those. Sorry, my computer is always slow when I use Camtasia because I only have 2 gigabytes of video RAM. So in the tools is the AcLog analyzer, and that's a separate app that you run on demand when you want to analyze your auto correction log files to look for bad, find bad hot strings and potentially get them out of your library. The manual correction logger, on the other hand, is in the core folder here, and that, if you choose to use it, is always running in the background, and it serves both functions. It does the logging and it also does the analysis. That's different than the autocorrection where AutoCorrect2 does the logging and AcLog analyzer does the analysis. So let's see. So separate from the AutoCorrect2 EXE, the two things really are made to go together. But strictly speaking, you could run the MCLogger without even using the AutoCorrect2 script, and we'll talk a little bit about how that could happen. In the system tray of Windows, you'll see the fun little brown log icon. That's a Steve special that I made in a photo editor. Right-click that, and there's an option for Start with Windows and some other tools in there. So how to start with Windows if you want. And then there are lots of required files for this to work. The list of them are here, and we'll, I guess, touch on these a little bit as we go through. But first, I guess, is to remember that none of my exe files are compiled. They're just copies of AutoHotkey.exe that have been renamed to match the AHK files. And so the MCLogger.ahk and MCLogger.exe have to both be in there. And we'll touch on these other files as we go through here. But I'll also mention that the tool uses Just Me is one of the forum users, and he has a ToolTipOptions class. And so the logger has lots of tooltips that pop up at various times. And in default Windows tooltips are just tiny, and they're hard for me to see with my old eyes. But the ToolTipOptions allows them to be bigger and easier to see, and potentially colorized if you would like them to have color. Okay, so let's talk about the logging part, and then we'll look at the log file, and then we'll talk about the log analysis, and maybe run through a couple of sample new autocorrect items. Okay, so the logging looks for letters, backspaces, and space characters. And for the purposes here of our discussion, the logging, the letter is a dot, and the backspace is this angle bracket, and then the space character is a tilde, squiggly. And the pattern that it's looking for, there's an input hook that runs the background, and it looks for the pattern letter, 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 backspace, letter, space. And that the idea is that series of key presses suggests that you have typed a word, and then in the middle of the word you stopped and backspaced it, typed another letter, and hit space. And the pattern is actually at least 3 letters followed by at least 1 backspace, followed by at least 1 letter, followed by a space character to indicate you're at the end of a word. I did include periods as letters, so that way if you're at the end of a sentence and you get to the end of the sentence and press a period, it can potentially still save the item as an autocorrect. Okay, so let's look at let's look at an example. So I'm going to go to the top here so you can see the see stuff easier. So if I type ASDFC space FGHJ, and then if I do the what is this, Shift Win Q, you can see the pop-up tooltip with the cache, the things I just typed. So it's watching for that pattern. If it sees the pattern, it will save the text as a trigger replacement pair. Here are a couple of sample ones I was just playing around with. So it saves up those, and if I do meet that pattern, now this typoCache will reset. And there's a couple of other things that also cause it to reset. Is if a match is detected, it resets. If I click the mouse, or if I use the arrow keys or press escape. And the reason is because if I figure if I'm over here in this area typing, type, and then I click over here to this area and type a couple of other characters, then that chain has been broken. I don't want the script to detect that as one continuous word. So any click, escape, or arrow keys will reset that cache. Okay, so that makes sense. What I found in practice when I first, in earlier versions of this script, is that I was collecting just hundreds and hundreds of junk correction, trigger replacement pairs. And actually, let me just give you a quick look at the log here. So open a tab and go to Data, where all the log files are, and ManualCorrections.log. Open this thing, and here's the log. It has the date. It looks a lot like the autocorrection log, except these are all, none of them are backspace, because by definition these are ones where we, well, I guess they all included a backspace, but they're all ones that are potential new autocorrect entries to add. And you can see, let's see, so it's the weekend today, so there's not very many today, but yesterday was Friday, the 3rd, and, oh, sorry, the 6th, March 6th. And look how many I collected in one day, all the way up to here. And that was a short day. Some days I get even more than that. So I was collecting a lot of them, and a lot of them were just junk. So over time, I've added different filters. So the rules are that they get cached for being written to the disk only if the replacement string is a word in the word list. And remember, we looked at our word list in a couple of other screencasts. It's the GitHub word list with about 250,000 words in it. So the replacement part, the second bit, has got to be one of those words in that word list. And the trigger string is not a word in the word list. All right, so I didn't want it to catch situations where I was typing one word and then changed my mind and backspaced the word and typed another word. I don't want to replace one word with another word. I only want to replace mistyped versions of a word with the correct version of the same word. Like here, pissable and possible. That was funny. Okay, so the replacement string has to be in the word list. Trigger string must not be in the word list. And the current trigger string pair must not equal the previous one. So I was getting lots of duplicates because of the way the regular expression for the log is set up. Lots of duplicate entries. So the trigger string must not match the previous one. And then another thing is that it is possible for it. It's possible. Let's see, how am I trying to say this? It's possible to log an item for a hot string that already exists. For example, look at the creation example here. Let's copy and paste this up here. So imagine this is in my AutoCorrect library. It's a whole word entry, so I have to type the whole thing. And then when I hit space, it does the autocorrection. But imagine I'm typing an email or whatever, and I type CREASI, and then I realize my mistake, and I press backspace, and then I type TON. that would satisfy the requirements for my manual correction logger, but it would not trigger that existing whole word autocorrect entry because I hadn't typed the entire trigger string before pressing backspace. And so because of that, one of the conditions was added is that the trigger and replacement string must not match any current hot string. So it's every time a match, uh, a pattern is seen, it checks against the current hot string library and makes sure that it's not catching one that already exists. And then also there is the removed hot strings list, and we looked at that last time also with the autocorrect uh, logging screencast. Um, if an item has been removed or culled from the autocorrect list of the autocorrect log and is in the removed hot strings list, then that also will not be saved. Okay, so let's so save intervals. So again, we looked at Shift Win Q. Well, the saved up text is not here anymore because what happens is every 10 minutes, and in 10-minute intervals, the saved up text gets written to the disk. In truth, I have a solid state drive, so if I could probably just log it every single time that the match is found. But if a person has a spinning disk, that would be a lot of disk writes. So instead, what we're doing is we're saving up, and then every 10 minutes, whatever hot string, potential hot strings are saved, get written to disk. A write to the disk also happens if the script exits or restarts, and also in the system tray menu, there is a log and restart script, which will save this to disk as well. Okay, so let's see here. So I think our next thing is, I guess actually let's have a look at an example like this one, creation. So imagine I'm typing CREAS. I realize that I'm misspelling this, so I backspace type that equal sign in there. I messed everything up. Okay, CREASI backspace TION and then space. And there it is, the tooltip that shows the item. And if I look at this quick peek, there is the item saved up. Okay, so there it is, all of that. So now let's look at the report. So the report, so first of all, we can access the report from HotString helper, Win H, right click on the Done button, and then there's the log icon for Analyze Manual Correction Log. Or you can just press the hotkey Win Control Shift Q. So Win Control Shift Q, and you get this progress bar, and there it is. Okay, and what it's done is it's scanned this log file, and it's shown me the count for each item and sorted them, of course, by count. So the topmost item is this thing here, THES, replaced with this. That's been logged 6 times. And by the way, I've gone through this log and used items and put them into the autocorrect list many, many times. So these numbers would be much, much higher if I hadn't already removed the highest count items many times in the past. So, okay, and then let's see here. So let's look at the buttons in the bottom here, and then we'll do an example autocorrect item and save it to our library. So I'm going to look at the cull button. And so the cull button, as you might guess, culls it from this log. This log. It doesn't immediately remove it from the list view here in the report GUI, though. Excuse me. Allergies. And it'll stay in the list here until the thing is restarted and rescanned. And also, if I click call or append or anything, do I want this GUI window to stay open or do I want it to close each time? Usually I want it to stay open, so there's a preference option for that. Okay, and then the other is append. So another question is, when I click append, do I want this new item? Do I want this item here? You know, flee change to file, or I guess that's FIEE change to file. Do I want that to be appended to the bottom of my autocorrect library, HotstringLib.ahk, or do I want it to be opened in HotString Helper? There is also an option for that. I guess actually let's go ahead and look at the options, the preference options. Open the system tray menu. Go to the blue gear icon as the settings manager, which we've looked at in um, other screencasts. And there is actually a section in the ini for MCLogger. It's here. So show each hot string. So when I did my creation example up there, I was typing creation, and then as it met that match for the pattern, it popped up a little tooltip and showed it to you, and it also beeps. And those two settings are here. So show each hot string. I have it turned to yes. Beep each time, yes. Save interval, writes to disk every 10 minutes. You can change that. And then intervals before stopping. So if there are no new hot strings for this many intervals, it will stop writing to disk, and then it won't start again until there again is an item in the list to be written. All right, and then SendToHH is the one I was just talking here. When I hit append, do I want it to just get saved to the end of the autocorrect library, or do I want it to get sent to HotString Helper? So it's worth mentioning that the SendToHHstring helper uses a command line argument and restarts the AutoCorrect2 script. But there's a shortcut that has been added. Oh, what is this? There's a shortcut that's been added. If you just right-click, it says copy to clipboard, and once it's in the clipboard, you can just press the hotkey for Win-H, and you'll open up the item directly in HotString Helper without the need to restart the app, which I recommend doing because fewer app restarts, it's quicker, it doesn't beep as much, it's just easier. And so the append button, I don't even use it. I just send things here like I just did. So right-click the item, Win-H for HotString Helper, and there it is. Okay, so let's see here. Back to our agenda. Oh wait, no, we were looking at this preference option, user settings options, and send HH. So save full to clipboard. So in older versions of this, it actually popped up a list of radio buttons. I think the user manual actually still shows a screenshot with the radio buttons. So it was only showing the top 20 items, and so I had an option to save the entire report to the clipboard. Kind of redundant now because now that we have a list view, the entire report is put in a list view anyway. And it shows all those single items. So, but the option is still there for whatever that's worth. Okay, age of old singles. So in older versions of the script, I had actually it worked by having a loop inside of a loop that would scan looking for duplicate items, and so with a list of like more than 7,000 items, a loop inside of a loop. So that was 7,000 times 7,000. It's like 49 million loops, and so it was pretty slow. And in newer versions, Claude AI suggested just to save everything to a map once, and then scan it that way, and it made it like way faster. So the calling out the old singleton items isn't as important as it was, but the option to do so is still there. And what it does is actually I will just do it so you can see. So this is the log. It's going to remove any that are pretty old, but there's only one occurrence. And so the thing is, I wanted to be able to remove ones that were just really obscure that I would only ever possibly ever type once, but I didn't really know how to detect super duper obscure ones. And so what I did is just said, if they're old, and there's only one occurrence of them, then we'll assume that they're obscure. Click on this. It says, pressing OK will immediately remove all the logged items older than 90 days. So click OK, and it'll take a couple seconds to get that out of there. And I believe it will also automatically save a backup copy. And I guess maybe I shouldn't have did that while the computer is under a heavy load. But that's okay. While we're still doing that, let's all look again at the setting manager. And so again, we are on Manual Correction Logger. So age of the old singles, by default 90. We'll keep report open. That's the one I was talking about. Do I want the dialog to close every time I click a button, or do I want it to stay open? Probably want it to stay open. And while we're still waiting for that thing, there's the thing's done. So it says 2,799 old single occurrence items have been removed and a backup copy is made. Here's the backup copy with all of the items. You can see the size is quite a bit larger than the new one. And this one has 7,600 lines of code. This one has 4,800 lines of code. So anyways, I could run the report again. Control, Shift, Win, Q. Suppose it's a little faster now. That's good. All right. And let's send some of these to HotString Helper and process them as potential new HotString items. So let's try this one actually. This the XX got pressed instead of the SS when I was trying to type SA. So no big surprise there. The XX is right next to the SS on the keyboard. No doubt that's what happened there. And so fixes one word like this, pretty unambiguous. We could save it like this. This could be a new autocorrect item for us. Make it into a function call. But let's make it into a word middle. Okay. So far, it matches 10 items. But we know whenever a word ends with a Y that we can sometimes get rid of that because replace that with IES and it becomes plural. We won't add the IES, we'll just get rid of the Y. So sure enough, now it allows all those plural ones. Now it saves 102 items. So that's pretty good deal there. Remember also our rule that we talked about before that with autocorrect items, in the delta string here, it shows the before and after. So this is the typo part, and this is the replacement part. And it's nice if you can have minimal characters after that, because that way the correction happens almost immediately when you make it, and you won't be as likely to see it and then press backspace to correct it yourself manually. So I'm going to go ahead and trim off that A and see what happens. So that's pretty impressive. It's matching 12,000 items, and there aren't any in the misspells. No English words that start with EXX, apparently. It does occur to me, I think that there is a petroleum company, Exxon, that is EXXON. We could put a capital C here to make this case sensitive. If I'm ever typing the company name, I'll use a capital E, and then it won't match. Otherwise, it'll do the replacement. Should we say that one? Yeah, I don't know. Am I likely to type Exxon, the company's name, with all lowercase? I don't think I am. I'm going to save this. So let's see here. And there is the startup announcement. And so since this one has been used, we don't need it in our log any longer. And so we're going to call this call from log. And there you go. Like I said, it stays there until I run the scan again. Shall we do another one? I don't know. About bottom. Bottom, change to bottom. And let's see here. So problem is at the beginning of the word, U instead of O, make it into a word middle. This is 19. We're not going to be able to trim off all of the ones after the fix because then, obviously BU is going to match a bunch of different words. So that's no good. Problem I see with this is if I'm trying to type button, B-U-T-T-O-N, and I accidentally press M instead of in, instead of fixing button, it's going to change it to bottom. I think even though it's been logged 4 times, I'm thinking this is not going to be a good one to keep. So we're gonna just cull this, and not save it. So all right. Anyways, I guess that's how that works. So again, on the GUI form here, there's a checkbox to make a backup, so you can make a backup of the thing if you want. Remember that if you do a remove old singletons, it'll make a backup for you anyway, whether or not this is checked. And then there is cull from log, append, and do both, and then of course cancel. And I'm just trying to think if there's anything else. I guess you notice there's a delta string up here so that you can see where the correction is with these different items. It's updated as I select a new item. I guess that's all there is to say about that. So we are at 26 minutes here on our screencast. Let's look again at the acquired files. So we'd already looked at the MCLogger, AHK, and EXE. And then AC settings, when we opened up that settings manager, it was reading the AC settings. And then the manual corrections log, of course, is the log file that we were looking at. We need that. The HotstringLib, just remember that it potentially appends an item to the HotstringLib. If you're not using HotString Helper and the AutoCorrect2 system, you can still use the app. You just have it set to save directly to the HotStringLib. But also remember that it does that filtering check down here where it makes sure that there's not already an existing hot string that is a match for the pair that you've just recognized. So that's there. So the removed hot strings list, again, used for filtering. The GitHub combo list, again, for filtering. AC message box, that was for the nice big colorful message boxes that popped up. It's an included file. And then AutoCorrect2 AHK and AutoCorrect2 EXE if you want to use the SendToHH string helper thing. And then the color themes settings if you want your GUI to be colorized. If you don't have the color theme settings ini, this code will still run. It'll just have default Windows colors. And okay, let's look through our thing here. I guess we talked about the buttons, the remove old singletons. Here are the hotkeys: One Shift Q, tooltip for the peek, quick peek, and then Control Shift Control Win. Q is the run analysis. And I can't think of anything else, so I guess we're going to wrap it up there. Again, this is for the AutoCorrect2 system, Uncle 321. Thanks for watching. After ending the video, I did think of a couple of other things to mention. One is the hotkeys. Go back into the user preferences thing here. And there's a shared section just for hotkeys. And so those two hotkeys, MCLogger run analysis hotkey and the MCLogger sneak peek hotkey. We look at both of those. You can change those here if you want, or you can delete this and just have it blank. You can assign no hotkey. For the MCLogger sneak peek, that would essentially disable the disable the sneak peek functionality. But to tell you the truth, I only ever use that for debugging purposes. In my day-to-day practice, I never use the sneak peek even once. The run analysis hotkey, of course, I do use that when I want to run analysis and look for potential new autocorrect items. But that can be accessed from the system tray menu or from the control pane of HotString Helper. So you could disable that hotkey too if you wanted. And then the only other thing I wanted to mention, and I've mentioned this in the manual and other places also, but these log files, I included versions of them in the GitHub repo just for folks to be able to experiment with. But the idea is for users to, to record their own manual corrections, because my patterns of mistypings and fumbly fingers and poor spelling might be different than yours. Or I don't know, maybe it's the same and my, either one will work. But I got to think that a library that is made from your own uh, corrections and miscorrections is going to be more useful for your solve. So that's all. Thanks.